This time on LARP Chats, we talk to Oromis. He plays out of Inland Ocean in Washington State. You'll learn what his favorite class was when he started and what his current favorite class is. You'll hear his thoughts on what Amtgard is and what he hopes it to be. He also talks about the various paths to knighthood in Amtgard, and you'll find out what he thinks is the hardest knighthood path to achieve. Hello, and welcome to LARP Chats. Today we have Oromis, who's been playing the game for 16 years.
About that, yeah.
So what does Amtgard mean to you?
It's just it's sort of become it's a community first and foremost. I think it's obviously a game, but at this point in my life, I've been playing for so long that all my good friends and stuff are all Amtgarders. Like my friends list is mostly full of Amtgarders, and it's sort of taken over my life in general, just indirectly. But yeah, it's just a community of people and like-minded individuals. Just out having a good time, a little escapism.
So obviously it's also a game,
Right.
but that's not what I asked, so that's fine. But like, what fun? What do you have? What kind of fun do you have at Amtgard, or what keeps you in Amtgard?
Yeah, I mean, fighting is my main focus 90% of the time. I've always held offices, done leadership stuff pretty constantly. So it's sort of a split between like the leadership aspect and fighting. Fighting is definitely what has kept me in the game the longest. Like there were stints where all I cared about was fighting for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially lately, I've been sidelined a little bit with injuries, and so having that leadership and stuff to fall back on as a purpose to come out has definitely helped.
You mentioned that you like the fighting a lot. In Amtgard, sometimes the fighting is a little bit separate than the battle gaming in some respect. Did you ever find a time where you really enjoyed battle gaming?
Yeah, actually, I would say I was really into battle games back in like the version 7 days, and then a massive gap in the middle where I didn't battle game at all, and I'm sort of getting back into it now.
Did you have any favorite classes when you first started playing?
Yes. I think I would have to say my favorite ended up being Bard in version 7.
Nice.
I loved playing Bard, doing the crowd control thing, and sort of working more with my team as opposed to by myself was always fun. So I think Bard was my favorite back then.
So what is your current favorite class, if you have one, now that you're getting back into V8?
Yeah. My current favorite class is Archer. I've been having a lot of fun with the archery stuff. It sounds silly, but I wanted a way to get into battle games without doing something no one would expect me to be good at, so there was no pressure. Like if I'm bad at archery, which I'm not very good, like no one would be like, oh, like that's disappointing. It's just I'm a new archer, so since it's so far away from fighting, it was fun to sort of like just do something completely different. The specialty arrows are fun too, stuff like, and I like in battle games being able to work with teammates and affect the kind of the flow of the game. Yeah. So like
strategies.
Yeah, and so having the specialty arrows like added a little bit of a wrinkle, and finding a new thing to see incremental improvement in is always nice too. So that's been fun.
So how long have you been playing Archer then?
On a regular basis, probably only about 6 or 8 months, something like that. Like
that's pretty new.
Yeah. Not even a full year yet.
So in Amtgard, it's not just about playing the game. There's also an award system.
Yeah.
So how do you view the award system in Amtgard?
Just as a whole, or like the benefits and drawbacks, or?
Just when you think of the award system, what are your first go-to thoughts? Like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, my initial thought of the award system is like, it's good to have like these cool incentives that we can give people to do things. It's definitely got its drawbacks in the sort of how it's used, and certain things there's parts of it that are kind of confusing, but overall I think it's a net benefit to the game for sure. There's
5 paths in Amtgard now.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you about each one.
Sure.
So what do you think about the sword path?
The sword path, I think the sword path is probably the one that's changed the most over, like, since I started at least, which I'd say changed for the better. But it's the one I spent the most of my time focusing on and pushing towards. I haven't gotten there yet, but we're hopefully close. But it's the hardest one to like a lot of the people who are in the sword path, it's the hardest one to make them seem like they're still part of the overall group. They sort of become sort of an individualized thing. So it's challenging, and it definitely can bring out the worst in people. I think it's the most likely out of all the paths to do that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's always good to have recognition for fighting ability, and it's the one I've wanted the most for the longest. So
Yeah, I knew it was the closest to your heart, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have respect for all the paths, but definitely like the closest one to my heart is definitely the sword path, the one I've wanted the most.
Flame, what do you think about the flame path in regards to Amtgard?
Yeah, I mean, the flame path is probably, in my opinion, like the one is sort of like, it might be the group of people that are the least, maybe like flying under the radar the most, like the sort of service and support groups of people. So not necessarily because some people like the big event runners and everyone knows them, but it's also the one that in discussions that I've had with other knights, like every knight should probably be a flame knight eventually.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, because like the service that you should be giving back to the game as a knight in general should eventually lead you to the flame path as well. So it's like the one that everyone should kind of be on. Yeah.
So how far along on the flame path are you?
Yeah, well, on that note, man, I think I have 7 roses.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, so not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I
thought you were going to say 2 or something that.
No, but I got my 7th rose. It had to have been like 3 years ago or something like that. So it's been a hot minute since I've done to anything to earn another rose.
To be fair, the world kind of paused for like 2.5 years.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I'll take that gap. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have the arts and crafts belt, the serpent belt.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
In my opinion, I think it's probably the hardest one to earn, and I've always said that would be the one that I would never be able to achieve, just because I'm not artistic or anything like that. I don't think I have that skill set. So, but the level of ability you need, the artistic ability, the craftsmanship, the monetary commitment that you have to make, because you have to be buying materials and all that stuff. It's huge. Like with Unum and his leatherwork, like I don't even want to know how much money he spent on tools and just materials and all that stuff. And then the time it takes, like it takes time to put out all the pieces and enter contests and stuff. So I think it's the most challenging to get, or at least the most impressive in my opinion, because it's like looking at something I couldn't do. So yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really heard that take exactly.
No?
That is, in fact, the hardest belt to get. But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think numbers-wise, sword is the rarest, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think the skill set that it takes, in my head at least, is more unique in the serpent path than it is the sword path. I think more people could learn to be a good fighter than learn to be a great crafter. That's just my opinion, or like just my view, I guess. It might be skewed by the fact that I'm terrible at it. So.
Perhaps. But everyone has their opinions and their viewpoints. So then there's the crown path, something that you're pretty familiar with as being a crown knight.
Yeah. 4 months now. No,
4 months.
3 months. 3 months.
3 months.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Baby knight.
Yeah, baby knight. I mean, I think the crown path is interesting because it's another one that has all the standards are kind of new over the last couple of years with Order of the Crown. But I do think it's probably the belt that gets the least amount of respect as far as like difficulty or anything like that. Like a lot of the other belts don't necessarily. I've heard a lot of negative takes on the crown path, but
why do you think that is?
I think it's because like you could get your crown belt without ever really producing anything. Like you have to win elections, but so many of our elections are uncontested.
Yeah.
It's hard to call it a victory if you're running against yourself. So you don't necessarily win anything. You don't really produce anything necessarily. It's a lot less tangible. And so it kind of comes down to what you put into it, like as a person, as a leader, because you could skate through and possibly still get the orders you need, or you can do it the right way and really show like leadership and do new things and like, be a benefit to the game like a crown knight should. But the fact that I think it's easy in some places to like skate through and kind of do the minimum to still get it, I think is why it probably gets a bad rap.
That makes some sense.
Yeah.
Then we come to the last path, the path of battle, the newest path. It's only been in the game for a year,
Yeah, something like that.
Something about like that. And it's for playing the battle games, guys. It's for actually playing the game.
Right.
It's amazing. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really cool that they finally have a way to recognize people for their abilities in battle games beyond like Paragons. Because like I always thought back when it was Masterhoods, I always wanted one. I always thought it was really cool. I feel like when Paragons came out, at least some areas, I can only speak to my area, but a lot of Paragons have gone out. So I don't think it's as rare as Masterhoods were, but I'm glad that they have another way to recognize them at a higher level for playing the core of our game. It makes sense. I think it's still got a lot to get hammered out, and I think we're going to see any effects, positive or negative, over the next few years. But so far, I think it's been a benefit to the game, a good thing for people who can't be like combat-oriented people who aren't into tournaments and stuff to strive for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, looking towards the future, what do you hope for Amtgard's, future?
Yeah, I'm a fan of the path it's on as far as like how it's developing and growing. Like, I feel like the game as a whole is better now than it was when I started, for sure. So I just wanted to, keep on that path, keep improving, and just keep growing. Like, just keep giving us a spot to come, play our silly games and wear our silly clothes and have a little bit of escapism from everything else out there. This is a nice way to do that, and as long as we continue to improve, I think that'll continue to be there for us.
Yeah. So in the coming years, I assume you're going to continue to play Amtgard.
Yeah.
How do you think that you're going to engage in the game and the culture?
I have some more ideas, things I want to do in office. Like I want to hold some more kingdom level office. I want to be able to be king when it's not all on the computer, because my whole reign was during during the shutdown. So I want to be able to be king where I can do sort of the fun things like court and stuff like that when it's not a multitude of small screens of people watching on mute. So I really want to do that. I plan to get back to fighting as soon as I've sort of recovered. I really want to get back into fighting, because that's the one that brings the most joy day to day.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest one to kind of deal with, I think, is not being able to fight. But I've also got some squires and underbelts that I've been able to kind of help encourage along their paths, and that's been super rewarding. So I look forward to continuing on working with them, helping them achieve their goals. So yeah, that's another big thing to look forward to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got some things that will keep you engaged, which is important, especially for long-time players. You have to find things to keep you engaged, otherwise you just go away.
Yeah, for sure. My son's 7 and he's really interested in playing, so I gotta stay interested long enough to get to the point where he can play, and then him playing will keep me in the game longer. So that's
Oh well, you got a long-term plan.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I don't have any plans to leave, so I don't have a retirement date, so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you, Oromis, for coming on to LARP Chats.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and so we'll catch you next time.